Hi everyone, so in this video we are going to discuss part 14 of Indian Constitution which deals with public services. When I am saying public services, I am referring to three kind of services, that is all India services, central services and state services. So that is going to be topic of the day, that is discussion on all India services, central services and state services. See, as far as this part 14 that I am talking about, that is going to be topic of discussion today. Part 14 spans from Part 14 of Indian Constitution spans from Article 308 to Article 323. Now, if you remember, when we were discussing these constitutional bodies, we already have discussed. So, this part 14, when I am saying this part 14 deals with public services, so it can be, this part 14 can be divided into two parts. One, which is referring to the three kind of services that I already have referred, that is all India services, central services and state services, right? So, that is one part of part 14. The another part of part 14 deals with the recruiting agencies, and the recruiting agencies in terms of these services are UPSC, Union Public Service Commission and State Public Service Commission. So when we were discussing these constitutional bodies, there we already have discussed the UPSC and SPSC. So half part of part 14 has already been done. There again I am reminding you, we had discussed Article 315 to Article 323, and there as part of discussion on UPSC and SPSC that we had covered only in one video. So there we had discussed extensively every component, composition, removal, qualification, working powers of UPSC and State Public Service Commission in these articles, that is articles spanning from Article 315 to Article 323. So the discussion of today's topic is going to center around this Article 308 to Article 313 or 314. Even out of these articles, that is Article 308 to 314, Article 308 has become almost redundant, that we will be discussing with the changing political status of J and K, because this Article 308 is going to talk about differentiated application of this part, that is part 14, with respect to the erstwhile Jammu and Kashmir, right? Whether to what extent this part was going to, I am saying mind you, was. So to what extent this part 14 was going to be applicable in Jammu and Kashmir. So this Article 308 was talking about that. So Article 308 will not be discussing. Similarly, Article 313 and 314 will not be discussing. I'll let you know that why I am saying that will not be discussing. So the reason that I have cited for 308, similar reason we do have for 313 and 314 as well. So the article that remains pending is for the discussion of this particular video is 309, 310, 311 and 312. So these four articles are going to be very important, right? Now let us discuss, without wasting time, let us discuss first of all the layout, the broad layout in which we will be dividing this chapter. So first of all, we will be discussing that, okay, what are the articles that is dealing with the public service, right? So we already have discussed that we have divided this part 14 into two parts. One part has already been discussed as part of discussion on UPSC and State Public Service Commission. So there is no point of discussing that, right? Now, there are three services, that is all India service, central service and State Public Service Commission. Now, since we are preparing for this exam, that is UPSC, and many of your aspirant would already be appearing for state services. So what is this all India service, what is this central service and what is this state service? I will expect that you already would be knowing since you are appearing for this exam, and since we already have covered more than 60 or 62 chapters, so I will expect you that you will have some basic idea at least about what is this all India service, what is this central services and what is this state services. So I will seek a concession from you guys that the detailed manner that so far we have been spending time on Supreme Court, be it Parliament or High, so whatever time that we have spent in analysis of any particular topic, so that amount of time will not be spending in the analysis part of this all India services, central services and state services. That I expect that you will to some extent you will have a basic idea, and to some extent I'll expect you that you will have a basic reading, because this is very simple, right? Just you have to give a one reading and you will understand. So whatever factual information that is needed to attempt prelim question, that I will be discussing as part of discussion on this. So I will be spending very brief time here when we will be discussing this all India services, central services and state services. What we will be doing is that we will be spending more time when we will be discussing these 4 very important articles, that is article 309, 310, 311 and 312. So I hope you will have clarity that how we are going to spend time on this particular video, right? And last section of this particular video, as usual, we do have 3 MCQ for you to attempt. Now without wasting time, let us move to next slide and let us first of all have a glance on the articles that we are going to discuss. So as I already told you that we are going to discuss this part 14 of Indian Constitution, but not whole of the part 14, but just first part of part 14, because the later part of part 14 that deals with the recruiting agency, that is UPSC and SPSC, ranging from article 315 to 323, that has already been discussed. See, when I am discussing these articles very fluently, you need not to consider that this kind of fluency is needed or expected from you as well, or UPSC. See, I have concentrated my subject expertise only to the polity. I used to be an aspirant, right now I am not an aspirant, so my job is very easy because I have to teach you guys, or I have to record this lecture only for the polity. So when one subject has to be read, I have this luxury that I can go into deep, but you need not to miss the way I am delivering, or the way I am continuously blabbering these articles or keep referring these articles. You need not to think, or you need not to get an impression that to clear this exam you also need to get hold. First of all, see, there are 470 around articles into the constitution. So first of all, let us be clear that for UPSC you do not need to have an knack on more than 150 article, and even out of those 150 article you need not to just correlate, right, that this article deals with this particular subject content. Even if you remember the subject matter or the content of that particular article, perhaps you would be able to attempt. But there are out of 150 article that I told you that you need to have an idea at least. If out of 150, around 70 or 60 articles, if you can exact remember with the article and the content, right, it would be very nice in gaining the competitive advantage. So out of 470 or 465 article that we do have in constitution, if we can manage 60 or 65 articles that is dealing with the union, that is dealing with the Supreme Court or High Court, that would make your life easy, very much easy as compared to others, right? So let's be clear that you need not to, you just need to see, when I am talking about UPSC, you need to have an idea that UPSC and SPSC has been dealt in the constitution from 315 to 323. What the composition has been dealt in 316 or 317. If that you cannot remember, not an issue, but at least bandwidth you need to have an idea on. When there is any question on the matching, right, it should not be कि UPSC का article आप union government के साथ match कर रहे हो या state government के साथ. So that bandwidth idea at least you can have, and उसके बाद आपका काम जो है थोड़ा सा life जो है easy हो जाएगा, right? So I hope you will have clarity that how deep in terms of articles we have to go. So you need not to go that much deep. Now with that instruction, let us see that which articles we are going to discuss. So I already have told you that 3 articles, that is article 308, 313 and 314 will not be spending time because they stand redundant, right, due to certain reasons. We will be spending time on these 4 articles, that is article 309, 310, 311 and 312, right? So these articles, the subject matters I am not going to read, because if I read these subject matters here, you can pause the video and can see the subject matter, because anyway we are going to discuss these 4 articles in later part of this particular video. Now without wasting time, let us move to the next slide and let us start discussing briefly, I am again saying briefly, what is this all India services, what is this central services, and what is this state services, and then thereafter we will be spending time on these 4 articles. So this particular video, perhaps, right, because even I don't know that how much time this recording is going to end, so perhaps this particular video will be smaller, or relatively at least smaller. Now let us move to the next slide and let us first of all discuss what is this all India service. So these are the 3 type of services that we are going to discuss under this particular chapter that deals with public services. You do have these all India services, this is central services, and then state services. So let us start with this all India services. So why any services would be called all India services? See, state services we can understand that because a state is recruiting agency, state might be a recruiting agency. So whatever recruitment that will be done by a particular state, say Tamil Nadu, so whatever recruitment that Tamil Nadu State Public Service TNPC would be doing, right? So those employee would be working for Tamil Nadu government, similar with the Haryana, similar with the Gujarat Public Service Commission, right? So State Public Service Commission can be understood. Central services can also be understood. So whatever recruitment that union government will be doing, so those people or those members recruited by the central government will be working for the central government, working under the jurisdiction of the central government. So that can also be understood. Now what is this all India services? So all India services, see, the basic idea you already would have. Now whichever services that will be put under this all India services, so you do have these three services right now that has been put under this all India services category, that is IAS, IPS and forest services, right, IFOS, right. Now whichever, what is the meaning, we were discussing this, the meaning of all India services. So what is this meaning of all India? So whichever member or whichever services that has been put under this category of all India services, right, those members will be serving both, that is union and state. On, if I go on the previous slide, there I had said that the people or the member or the aspirant who has been selected or who has been appointed by these state services, they will be solely working under the jurisdiction and for that particular state. Similar with the central government. So if you have been appointed by the central government, then you will be working only or solely for the central government. But that is not the case with this all India services. Whatever services, the three services that we talked about, that is IAS, IPS and the forest services that has been put under this all India services, those people, these people, members of these three services will be working for the union as well and the state as well. Although in case of this IAS and IPS, you would have heard that that particular IAS does belong to UP cadre, or that particular IPS belong to the Gujarat cadre, or that particular IPS officer belong to the Bihar cadre or Tamil Nadu cadre. But because initially, see, these people just for recognition are assigned cadre for the initial career for around 9 or 10 years. They do serve under the state government, for the state government, although they are going to serve the state government, whatever state cadre that they have been assigned for the entire life, they will be serving for that particular state. But after completion of 9 or 10 years of the service for that particular state, they become eligible. And listen this carefully, after completing, so when you have been, suppose you are selected, not suppose, my best wishes that you guys get selected for these IAS and IPS by this appearing for this UPSC exam. So my best wishes on that front. So suppose you get elected and thereafter, once you have completed the training, probation you have completed, then SDM post would be at the deputy collector, depending on the state. So from state to state, this post, the name of the post is going to differ. So suppose in any particular state, the first posting that you get is SDM. Thereafter, again, that will depend on the state, that whether from SDM to DM in promotion you are going to take 3 years or 4 years. So that depends on the situation, and that number of years will vary from the state to some state does have very fast promotion, some state does have delayed promotion. So that number of years, generally it does take for SDM to be promoted as DM, because you need require a level of experience. So in 3 or 4 years, generally IAS is promoted to these DMs or the collector's role, right? So if you have been the deputy collector in any state, then you will be given collector position. If you have been SDM, then you will be made DM. So after 3 or 4 years, you will be made DM. Thereafter, again some promotion, and once you have completed 9 or 10 years of the field work, then you become eligible. Eligible for what? So after 9 or 10 years, you can get into the state secretariat as well, right? I hope you would have an idea on what is this secretariat, right? So you become eligible for the appointment into the state secretariat as well, or you can opt for the central deputation as well. So see, as equivalent to this IAS, now what is this central deputation? Let us try to understand. So equivalent to this IAS or IPS, right, center has not recruited any other post equivalent of this IPS and IAS for the central working, right? Central government or union government also is working, like they do have also machinery at in Delhi or at the union level, right? So they also might require whatever experience that you guys have gained in this field work. So they do have also secretariat, cabinet secretariat. They also do whatever scheme that is. Who do you think that these scheme design? Right. So it is not the broad guidelines of any scheme may be defined by prime minister or any of the cabinet minister, but when it comes to skeleton filling, right, the exact that how that particular goal, so the cabinet minister can just design that, okay, we have to for in next 5 years 27% is the poverty level, now I have to bring in next 10 years, my goal is going to bring down it to 22% or 21% or 20%. Now what will be the way out, that will be decided, because you guys have worked into the field, so way out will be shown by you. Now since you have worked into 9 or 10 years, so center would like to have yourself whatever expertise or whatever experience that you have gained in those 9 or 10 years, center would like to have benefit from that experience, and that's why that option for the IAS and IPS has been put up, that if you want to come on the central deputation or if central government wants to have you, then they can have it for 3 years or 4 years. Now that will depend. I am not getting into the nitty gritty because then I'll be entering into the public administration domain, right? So I am just giving you an idea, right? So that was this about this basic information about this All India services, that the All India services, their members services can be obtained by union as well and the state, although they does belong to a particular state, but their services can be taken by the union as well, and that's why these type of services are called All India service. If I talk about the recruitment and other things, so as far as recruitment and training is concerned, recruitment and training of these All India services are done by the union government, there is no doubt, right? UPSC is what? A central agency, although constitutional, but at the end of the day it is a central agency. At the state level you have this State Public Service Commission. So a central agency, that is UPSC, does conduct the examination. Thereafter recruitment is done by Department of Personnel and Training, because recruitment letter or the employment letter that you guys do receive, that is not from the UPSC. So here you will have to understand this UPSC is nothing. UPSC is just a body to conduct this examination. It is not a appointing authority. The appointing authority is going to be Department of Personnel and Training, that works directly under this Prime Minister's office, right? So the appointment of these All India services and the training as well, right? When you go into Labsna or you go to Swapna, right, Sardar Vallabhbhai National Police Academy, or for this forest services, you do have that Indira Gandhi Academy into Dehradun, right? So all those costs are borne by union government. So the training and recruitment is done by the central government. Once your training is over, once your 1.5 or 2 years training is over, thereafter you are allotted to a particular state, right? And in that state you will be working, right? So the process of recruitment, exam is conducted by the UPSC, and the recruitment is done by Department of Personnel and Training by the central government into these institutions that you already would be knowing. Do I need to spell it? No. So as far as service condition of All India services is concerned, service condition of All India services is being regulated by this act that has been passed by the parliament. So what is this act? The act is All India Services Act of 1951, and through this act central government has been empowered that along with suggestions. So here this point is going to be important, that this act that has been passed by the parliament, this act has empowered central government to regulate what? Regulate this recruitment procedure and the conditions of the service condition. What is this recruitment process? So the selection process, right? The part of recruitment might be sounding easy, but the selection process, this exam conducting, is also part of recruitment process. Then appointing, then promotion, transfer, all these will come under this recruitment process. What is this service condition? So the pay, the salary that you guys are paid, how regularly your increment will happen, that is part of service condition. How many paid holiday or casual holidays that you guys would be getting, right? What is your duties? All those are part of service condition, whether you will be allowed to speak into the media or not. That is part of the service condition. So here we were discussing that All India Services Act of 1951. Now after this act, means this act has empowered the central government with the suggestion, with the inputs from the state government, that the central government can regulate, but the central government will not regulate the recruitment and the service conditions solely, but they will be taking in consultation with the state government, they can regulate the recruitment procedure and the service condition of the All India Services. So this point is important, that the regulation of recruitment and service condition is done by central government in consultation with the state government. So that is the basic information regarding the All India Services, right? Another information if I talk about, so if I talk about the administrative control, and this option is not present, this information is not present into the Lakshmikant, so here you need to be little more careful. So here if I talk about the administrative control, so the administrative control of IAS, Indian Administrative Services, lies with the Department of Personnel and Training, that is the same organization that has appointed all these three services members. If as far as IPS is concerned, Indian Police Services, so administrative control over the IPS does lie, or the nodal agency for these IPS is Ministry of Home Affairs. If I talk about Forest Services, so for Forest, Indian Forest Services member, the obvious administrative control will lie with this ministry, that is Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, right? So these three are going to be the nodal ministry, or the administrative control of these three services will lie with these three ministries. As far as after training serves their state cadre for a definite period, right? These people will be serving their state cadre. Center takes their experienced services through deputation, right? So this is going to, or tenure method, you can say, tenure method, right? So deputation, they work in secretariats policy making wing, right? Whatever experience that you guys have gained during your field work during that 9 or 10 or 13 years, depending on the state, right? So whatever experience that you guys have gained, you will be sitting there in cabinet secretariat and will be helping central government design the developmental scheme for people residing in various states, right? Then you do have this additional information, that is All India Services. So right now you do have these three All India Services, but Parliament does have right, and when I am saying Parliament, Rajya Sabha particularly does have right, that they can pass a resolution and can direct Parliament to have another All India Services. So suppose there is tomorrow a need is felt that All India Judicial Services is to be created. Although in regards to All India Judicial Services, there is already a provision into this Article 312. When we will be discussing this Article 312, we will be discussing that All India, in regards to the All India Judicial Services, the proposal has already been passed by 42nd Amendment, right, in 1976. Central government just need to bring a law, and thereafter this All India Judicial Service. But this is going to be complex procedure, because when you are creating this All India Judicial Services, they will have to take, means government of the day will have to take permission, not permission, but there would be extensive consultations, because considering that NJAC had already been stricken through by the Supreme Court, there is little chance that the Supreme Court or High Court is going to allow central government to create any such kind of, because at the end of the day it is the administrative, if this All India Judicial Service, how the recruitment of the lower judiciary happens. See, in higher judiciary, we already, when we were discussing this High Court and Supreme Court, we already know that how High Court judges or Supreme Court judges are appointed, right? So you do have well established procedure for the High Court judges or the Supreme Court judges, but as far as over the subordinate court, right, you do have control of the High Court. Now if you are creating any such mechanism that is in nature of All India Judicial Services for the appointment or the direct appointment, where these guys will be losing control, that is High Court, and there would be protest from the state government as well, because into subordinate courts, right, it is the state government as well that does play their role into the appointment of judges into the subordinate courts, right. So there would be protest, although in 2020, that is this year itself, in January, there was a draft that had been prepared by the cabinet, and the current Chief Justice of India perhaps has already approved that draft. So there is a chance that, and this is a current topic, right. So you need to have an idea that All India Judicial Services, regarding this amendment, in 42nd amendment there was already provision, and this word is already in your constitution into the article 312. When we will be discussing this article 312, we will be discussing this, right. So the point that I was discussing, that right now we do have these three All India services, but if Rajya Sabha likes, or if Rajya Sabha consider that it is in national interest, right, so then Rajya Sabha can pass a resolution by 2/3 of the majority present and voting on that particular day when resolution is being passed, right, and can empower parliament to create. So here this point is very important, that through this, and this point I will not be repeating when I will be discussing this article 312, right. So let me repeat this point here itself. So article 312, what this article 312 does is that article 312 empowers parliament. It empowers parliament to create a new All India services, but for that empowerment, Rajya Sabha needs to pass a resolution by 2/3 majority present and voting on that particular day, right. So that is the essence of this article 312, that article 312 empowers parliament to create a new All India services, provided that Rajya Sabha do pass a resolution to that effect. Now why Rajya Sabha alone has been given power to pass that resolution, not Lok Sabha, that point we will be discussing when we will get into this article 312, that we are not right now in, right. So that question, that why not Lok Sabha has been given power to pass that resolution, why Rajya Sabha? See, when Rajya Sabha has passed the resolution, then Lok Sabha will come into the picture, but Lok Sabha cannot pass the resolution initially. So why Lok Sabha rule has been ignored for that resolution, why Rajya Sabha has been given primacy, that we will be discussing. So that was all about this All India services. Now we are moving to the next slide to discuss this central services. So what is this central services? So central services is nothing. The difference, what was the All India services? So the member of All India services was serving both union and the state, but here there is nothing of that such, right. The central government or the services which does lie into the central services, so whatever appointment that will happen under that domain or under that services, those people or those officials will be working solely for the central government. They would not extend their services to the state, right. So that is one difference. Then you do have this group A, group B, group C and group D services, which were earlier known as class 1, class 2, class 3 and class 4 officials, right. Into these cities or into various states, you would be still hearing this class 1, class 2, class 3 officer. That particular person or his son or his daughter is class 1 officer or class 2 or class 3. Now out of these 4 classes or 4 groups at the central level, right now the designation means this classification it does not exist at the central level today. What you do have is group A, group B, group C, group D official. Out of this group A, group B, right, group A and B are gazetted officer, it is called gazetted officer, and group C and group D are non-gazetted officer. This group C is nothing but clerical staff, and group D, you can call these PNs and chaprasi fall under this group D. Now why I am calling this group A and group B as a gazetted staff? So gazetted staffs actually, or gazetted officers, are those officers whose appointment or whose transfer or whose promotion are actually notified into the Union Gazette. And similarly at the state level as well, you will have the gazetted office staff, right, or the gazetted employee. So similarly to the state notification, whatever appointment that will happen for the class 1, class 2 official, so class 1 and class 2 officer at the state level are called gazetted officials, right. So their appointment, their promotion, their transfer will be notified whenever they will be promoted, whenever they will be what you call transferred, then, or whenever they are being appointed, right. So all these events are notified into the state gazette or union gazette, and that's why means if he happens to be a union employee, then his appointment, his transfer or his promotion will be notified into the union gazette, similarly with the state gazette. And that's why I hope you will have by now an idea on that what is this gazetted officer. So group A and group B at the central level, whichever officials are manning this group A or group B, those officials will be called gazetted officials, right. Group C and group D employees perform clerical and manual tasks, right. So the only difference between this all India services and central services in terms of jurisdiction is that whosoever people will be appointed by the central government, right, under the central services, he or she will be serving only the central government. You do have these Indian engineering services, then economic services, right. So these kind of, even the foreign services, right, for foreign services which are appointed by this UPSC itself, right. So for the foreign services, the similar pre-exam is the common, but means and other processes differs, right. So the foreign services is also what you call the central services. So whosoever officials are appointed under the central services, they do man important posts into the central government. So that was regarding the central services. Now if you give me the luxury of not discussing these things in detail, and if you can give me luxury that you will read all these chapters or the basic information, right. So what is the state services? So state services, again, nothing, means you already would be knowing that you do have in various state, you do have these public service commission, Uttar Pradesh Public Service Commission, Tamil Nadu Public Service Commission, Gujarat Public Service Commission. So at the state level, the way we do have at union level, we do have UPSC. Similarly at the state level as well, we do have the State Public Service Commission. So whosoever people are appointed by the state services, these state services, they will work exclusively for the state government. Recruitment by the state services agencies like UPPSC, HPSC, Haryana Public Service Commission, Bihar Public Service Commission, or Tamil Nadu or Kerala. So you do have senior designation recruited through state services generally works immediately below this all India services. So whosoever people, means you do have these people, IAS, IPS, who are appointed by the central government. Now this IAS has been deputed to, or has gone into the state cadre. So IAS, if he is working as a DM, you will notice that SDM will be a state person belonging to the state services. Similarly, IPS is appointed by this UPSC at the central level. IPS, who is having this post of superintendent of police. Now Deputy SP, you will notice, will be appointed by this or will come from the state services through these State Public Service Commission. And that's why this point, that the senior designation recruited through, although state services do not only recruit these SDM or Deputy Collector or the Deputy SP, there are other posts as well, that is, but because we are dealing with, or we are appearing for these kind of examination, that's why I have taken this example. So senior designation recruited through state services generally works immediately. So the key information here was that the members of the state services are recruited and trained by the state, and they exclusively work for the state government itself, recruited by the state service agency. Like so, classification: class 1, class 2, class 3 and class 4 official. At the central level, the corresponding services were group A, group B, group C and group D officials you had, right. So this was the brief about this central all India services, then central services and state services. I know that I did not get into the details. I'll expect you that you will have a reading on all these three kind of services, because these things are plain simple. Now we are moving to the next slide to discuss those 4 articles that I already highlighted. Although this part 14 of Indian Constitution that we were supposed to discuss, the first part spans from article 308 to 314, but as I already told you, here article 308 that was dealing with the differentiated application of this particular part with the erstwhile Jammu and Kashmir, and since Jammu and Kashmir political status has been changed from state or the special status that had been extended under article 370, right, so that has been taken away and now it is a union territory. So there is no relevance of this particular article that was talking about differentiated application of this part, that is public services, with respect to Jammu and Kashmir. So because this article stands redundant, so we are not discussing this article 308. Now if I discuss about 309, that is article 309. Article 309 actually deals with recruitment and the service condition of all India services, central government services and the state services. All those three means public services recruitment, how or which all agency is going to be responsible for the recruitment and what will be the service condition, who will be deciding their recruitment and who will be deciding their service condition, whether parliament, whether state legislature, whether the central government, whether president, whether governor, whether state government, right. So which all body is going to responsible for the recruitment and the managing this service condition. So that has been discussed in this article 309. So here it reads, if you can read, that parliament and state legislature is empowered. Parliament and state legislature is empowered to regulate two things, that is recruitment and the service condition of whom. So parliament will be regulating the recruitment and service condition of whom. So they will be regulating the recruitment and service condition of all India services and this central services, the two kind of services. So whichever appointment that will be done by the central government, right, so the parliament will have right that their recruitment and the service condition will be regulated by the parliament. So appointment of all India services and central services is done by whom? By the central government. So as we already have discussed that in relation to the all India services, parliament, which does have power to regulate the recruitment and the service condition, has already created this law, that is All India Services Rules or All India Services Act of 1951. Similarly, another act that has been passed in 1968, that is All India Conduct Rule of 1968. Now this All India Service Act of 1951 does. So All India Service Act of 1951, it empowers whom? Central government and state government both, that central government in consultation with the state government can regulate this recruitment and the service condition of all India services. Similarly, for the central services there would be some similar act, right. We are not, because our focus because we are preparing for this UPSC, so our focus is not this central services, our focus primarily is this all India services. So the example, whatever example that I'll take, right, that will be taking in relation to the all India services. So here the key point is that as far as recruitment and the service condition regulation is concerned, so in relation to the all India services or the central services, that power lies with the parliament. And similarly, as far as state services is concerned, so whosoever is or whichsoever participant or member is going to be recruited by the state government or by the state services, right, so that regulation, their recruitment and the service condition will be regulated by the state legislature. In the constitution, one more provision in this article 309 had been given, that until this parliament comes up with any law to regulate all India services or the central services, president will have power. But since parliament has already come up with these kind of law, so that provision of article 309, that until parliament comes with the any law to regulate the services and the service condition, president will have power. Now president does not have power because parliament has already come up with a law. Similarly, at the state level, unless state legislature comes up with the law to regulate what? To regulate recruitment and the service condition, governor will have power. But because various state government has already come up with this kind of law, so that these 2 points or this last line of article 309 again stands redundant, right. until such a law is made, right, president and the governor regulates the survey, will continue to regulate. So that was something that had been mentioned in the constitution in 1950, because state and the parliament, they did not know, these constitutional forefathers did not know that how much time states and the parliament will take, right? Because see, as far as IAS and IPS is concerned, IAS and IPS, we had got these two kind of structure, these two institutions we had got from the Britishers itself, right? And it was only in 1952 that we had this parliament, means until 1952 we had this provisional parliament, but elected parliament came into, or the first Lok Sabha that started functioning, it was only into 1952. So because constitutional forefathers did not know that how much time parliament will take, and that's why they empowered, or they thought of empowering president and the governor at the union and the state level, that until parliament comes up with any such kind of law regulating the recruitment and the service condition, till then president and governor will have that power. I hope that this article 309 you will have clarity on, right? So when I am saying service condition, so service condition means these kind of things, whether they will be indulging in any kind of private trade or any kind of employment, whether to what extent they can invest into the mutual market or any company's share, what are the nature of gifts that IAS or IPS can accept. So these all things come under this service condition. I hope state legislature, so state legislature service rules and the conduct rule of the state services will be decided by this state legislature. That point we already have discussed. So article 309 has been covered. Now we are moving to this article 310. This article 310 actually deals with the tenure of whom? So tenure of people that has been appointed under this all India services or central services. When I am saying central services, so it does include all those central services plus military services plus defense services, so all those people, and the state services as well. So state services. So tenure of all these people will be discussing on this particular slide. See, when we were discussing these constitutional bodies, we had discussed that the term or tenure of these constitutional bodies members. So when we were discussing this EC, election commission, so here you do have these chief election commissioner and 2 election commissioners. So there we had defined that the term of all these 3 people was generally 6 years. If they are not being removed by a let down procedure, their term was 6 years. But unlike these constitutional bodies or statutory bodies whose term is transient like 6 years or 5 years, these people, that is IAS, IPS or Deputy SP or the foreign services or forest services, so these people generally are appointed for the life. However, their services are required by the central government or the state government, or they do reside into the services at the mercy of the pleasure of the president. And if I talk in terms of state services, so state services member reside into the services at the mercy of pleasure of governor. But here is the key, that when I am saying pleasure of the president and in relation to the state services, when I am saying pleasure of the governor, you should not take it कि जब मर्जी होगा ये उठा के आपको भगा देंगे. Suppose if you have been appointed as IAS, Indian Administrative Services, by the central government, or IPS, right, and it can't be. So suppose this government continuously keeps talking about this slogan, that is minimum government and maximum governance, and the reflection of this sloganeering you would have already seen into continuously reducing number of posts into UPSC as well, into the railways as well. The government job is continuously being cut, and that is nothing but the government's policy of minimum government and the maximum governance. But okay, fine, means if you are not recruiting, then there is no issue. But it can't be that when I am saying pleasure of the president or the pleasure of governor, so it can't be that once a member who has been appointed, so suppose you became IAS officer in 2020 or 21, right? So if you become IAS, or if you are appointed by the central government as IAS officer or IPS officer in 2021, now it can't be that in midway, because just following this pleasure doctrine of the president, it can't be said that hey, pack your bags 2 years down the line, because we are cutting the size of IAS. Earlier we required 200 IAS into the cabinet secretariat. Now we are cutting the services, we were reducing it to 100. So now you pack your bag and go back to him. No, that policy, just because in the constitution in article 310 it has been mentioned that you do or your services are required by the central government, and that is at the mercy of pleasure of governor. Similarly at the state level it is at the mercy of pleasure of governor or the pleasure of president. It can't be that you can be asked suddenly. No, government will have to pay compensation if they are asking. So if they are forcing you for the voluntary retirement, right, for no fault of yours, in that case you will be paid handsome compensation. Now there are certain other safeguards as well that is available to the civil servants, and those safeguard has been mentioned into article 311. So what are those safeguards? So there are actually two safeguards that has been mentioned and that is available to the civil servant, and those two safeguards are these. So the first safeguard is that if for any fault of yours as well, right, if you are being removed, then first of all you cannot be removed. Any all India services or the state services cannot be removed by any officer that is subordinate to the appointing authority. So if president is appointed, so all India services, the meaning of that, the first protection is that if all India services members has been appointed by the president, so he or she will be removed by the either by the president or any authority sitting above the president. And is there any other authority that is above this president in our constitutional scheme of things? No, the president is the highest constitutional authority. So all India services members can be removed only by the president. Similarly, if I talk about the state services member, so they can be removed only by the governor, right? So that is the first protection, that they cannot be removed by any authority subordinate to which had appointed him or her. So that is the first protection. Second protection is that he or she cannot, the person who is to be removed, he or she cannot be removed without a proper inquiry. You will have to, that department which has decided that this person has conducted this particular activity which is not in line with our conduct rules or which is not in line with our ethos, then you will have, the department will have to conduct the inquiry, and in that inquiry you will have to give him or her chance to defend him her. You will have to give him chance कि भाई वो अपना representation जो है वो representation he or she could send into that inquiry committee, unless and until you have given him enough representation, enough chance to defend himself or herself. After that only you can send the recommendation to the president if he happens to be all India services member, or if he happens to be this state services, then you will be, that department will be sending that report to the governor, and then he will be recommended ki this person, because now he has been given enough opportunity, and in that inquiry as well he has been found guilty. So now governor or the president can remove, right? So these are two protection that has been extended to all India services member or the central services member or the state services member. So all these people, all the civil posts under central government, not the military post. मिलिट्री वालों को ये प्रोटेक्शन नहीं है, राइट, मिलिट्री वाले को ये प्रोटेक्शन नहीं अवेलेबल है. सो ऑल द सिविल पोस्ट अंडर द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एंड ऑल द सिविल पोस्ट अंडर व्हाट यू कॉल the state services, so those people has been given these two concessions. These two protection are available only to the civil servants of the central and state government, not to the members of defense or the military services. There is one more exception, and one more exception is that this particular protection, generally these two protection, both these protection are given to all these people, that is civil servants working for the central government or the state government. However, even to this class of people, that is civil servant of the central government or the state government, this protection cannot be extended in certain situation. What are those certain situations? So the first situation is that suppose in any of the criminal activity you are found. Now I'm taking an example. Just a year ago you had this IAS officer into the Kerala, and during the night while he was driving in a drunken state, his car had mowed down a journalist and the journalist was killed. I do not track that particular case, but suppose in that particular case, if you are into unfortunately any of a particular that nature of case, and judiciary announces that since you have conducted this crime, so you are being awarded a jail term or conviction of, judiciary finds you guilty and you are convicted for 2 years. Now since you have been convicted, so to a convicted civil servant this protection is not available. The department need not to initiate any kind of inquiry just on the basis of that conviction, that since you have already been convicted by the judiciary, so department need not to initiate the inquiry, department need not to give you this particular safeguard, and president or the governor, depending on which category of service you belong, if you belong to the All India services, then president can directly remove you without giving you this particular chance. So that is the first instance where this particular protection or this particular safeguard will not be available even to the civil servants, right? The second situation in which this particular protection will not be available to this category of people, and that second situation is that suppose there is any such instance, suppose you have been involved in or indulged in any such activity which endangers security of state, or if conduction of inquiry will endanger the security or sovereignty of state, even in that situation governor, in case of if inquiry is to be conducted in relation to the state services or for the member of the state services, then governor can take call that this inquiry should not be conducted because it will impact or it will affect the security of the state or security of the country. So in that situation, or president in relation to the All India services or central services can take call कि भाई ये कोई जरूरी नहीं है inquiry की. Now the third situation, so two situation. In third situation, suppose in third situation there is any other situation in which president or the governor is satisfied that the conducting inquiry in this situation is not practical, then in that situation as well governor can suggest that hey, we need not to conduct, this situation is not practical, and in this situation this inquiry cannot be conducted by the department, let us straight away dismiss this particular civil servant. So that call can be taken by the governor for the state services member and by the governor in relation to the All India services member, by the president in relation to the All India services and central services, right? So these are three situations in which these, out of these two protection, this protection will not be available. So all these things that I spoke, this has been put up into the textual format when you will get the PDF, or you can pause the video and can read all these things. Now let us move to the next slide and let us discuss this article 312. So article 312 has already been discussed into the initial slide, so I am not discussing this. What is this article 312? Rather there I had raised a question on that particular slide when I was discussing this article 312. I had raised one question, and the question was that why RS, Rajya Sabha, has been given this special power to initiate any such resolution for the creation of All India services, while Lok Sabha has not been given this power. So let us try to understand that why Rajya Sabha. See, when it comes to All India services, so what is this All India services? See, All India services people are appointed by, their exam is conducted by central agency. This pen is not working fine. Central agency, that is UPSC. Then whenever it comes to regulating the discipline, whenever it comes to disciplinary matters, although the transfer can be done by the state government, or any preliminary, any minor decision in relation to the disciplinary matter can be taken by the state government, but when it comes to eventual or the final decision on any of the disciplinary matter that has to be taken in relation to the IPS, it is taken by the Ministry of Home Affairs at the central level. Similarly, into the IAS, it will be taken by Department of Personnel and Training. So state does not have much say into the disciplinary matters, although they can send the recommendation, but at the end of day, it is the central agency, that is Ministry of Home Affairs or Department of Personnel and Training in relation to the IAS and IPS does have a final say. So what is this? When we were discussing the salient feature of Indian Constitution and when we were discussing the unitary biases into the Indian Constitution, among the other unitary biases, this appointment of IAS and then sending it to the state, because ultimate control over IAS and IPS is with the central government. So to this appointment, this method of appointment of IAS and IPS, we have, or all India services, we had described that this is a unitary feature into the Indian Constitution, because central government, though they are working for the state government, but the central government at the end of day has eventual control. Now, so, and what is this Rajya Sabha? Rajya Sabha is nothing. Rajya Sabha is Council of State. There you do have representatives from the Council of State, from various state, right? So to compensate this unitary bias, all India services, which had been described as a unitary feature into the Indian Constitution, to compensate this unitary bias into the Indian Constitution, Rajya Sabha, in which you will have members from various state, right? Rajya Sabha has been given power, or this additional or extended power, that you will create, or you will have the, you will pass the resolution, and then only a new all India services can be created, right? Not the Lok Sabha, right? So to offset that unitary bias, Council of State, that is Rajya Sabha, has been given power to initiate this proposal and not the Lok Sabha. So I hope the question that I have raised on that particular slide, that why Rajya Sabha has been given this special power and not the Lok Sabha, would have been responded. So right now you do have this all India services, that is IAS, IPS, as part of all India services since inception of the Constitution, because these structure, that is IPS and IAS, was with the Britishers as well. So these structures we had got from the Britishers, but as far as Indian Forest Services is concerned, Indian Forest Services was included into the AIS, All India Services, in 1966. Although in 1966 there were other services as well, like medical services and judicial services that had been envisioned, but that could not be included in this all India services. Finally, you will see that by 42nd Amendment in 1976, this all India judicial services was envisioned, and right now the position of this all India judicial services is that regarding this all India judicial services, that was already confirmed by this 42nd Amendment. Whenever government wants, right, they can bring this all India judicial services, and for that no amendment, no constitutional amendment under this Article 368 is necessary. The government of the day just have to pass a law from the parliament, and that all India judicial services can come into the picture. But because it will lead to confrontation with the judiciary, so perhaps, and especially considering that since this INJAC has already been stricken down by the judiciary, so no government perhaps is daring to bring this all India judicial services. And even at that point, when this 42nd, why Madam Gandhi, who had already got this 42nd Amendment passed and already had this all India judicial services, why she could not, and thereafter the subsequent government could not bring this all India judicial services into the practice? So the reason only was that they no government of the day wanted to have any kind of conflict with the judiciary, because I already told you that once all India judicial services has been created, an amount of administrative control that does have High Court over the subordinate courts, or Supreme Court does have that administrative control, these courts will lose. And that's why you will notice that whenever there would be any attempt or any discussion that would start from political class regarding the all India judicial service, perhaps I should not be saying these things, because again, contempt of court, at least on camera, we should not be discussing these kind of things, right? So all India, I hope you would have already got an idea that why all India judicial services so far has not come into the picture. So with this, we are wrapping up this lecture. As I already told you that Article 313 and Article 314, right, will not be discussing. So with this, we are wrapping up this lecture with 3 MCQ, 1, 2 and 3. So these are the 3 MCQ that I expect you to attempt until we come up with the next lecture. Till then, bye bye.